I learned something early in my life that changed everything. The world wakes up late. When I was young, I thought the people who worked hardest during the day were the ones who got ahead. But I was wrong. Most people start their day reacting to alarms, to emails, to noise. They wake up and immediately give their attention away to the world. Billionaires don't do that. They start by creating. They start before the noise begins. When I built Alibaba, I didn't have money, I didn't have experience, and honestly, I didn't even have much confidence. But what I did have was time. Not more of it, but a better use of it. I used the quiet hours of the morning to think, to plan, to visualize. While others were still sleeping, I was already asking myself, what can I create today that didn't exist yesterday? Those hours before 8 a.m., that's when your mind is pure. That's when the world hasn't invaded your thoughts yet. And if you don't protect that time, someone else will use it for you. I tell young people all the time, poor people chase time, rich people command it. Most people say, I don't have time. But that's never true. Time is not missing. Discipline is. The rich don't have more hours in a day, they just make their hours obey them. When you wake up late, you're already playing defense. You start your day in reaction mode, reacting to messages, reacting to pressure, reacting to problems. But when you start early, you become the one who sets the tempo. You design the day instead of surviving it. There's a quiet power that lives in the early morning. No distractions, no noise, just you, your thoughts, and your direction. That's when your decisions have clarity. You can hear your own voice instead of the world's opinions. You can remind yourself who you are and what you stand for. That's why I say, success doesn't start with talent, money, or even ideas. It starts with silence. Before 8 a.m., I make decisions that control the next 16 hours. After 8 a.m., the world tries to control me. People think billionaires are obsessed with money. That's not true. They're obsessed with rhythm, the rhythm of their time, their habits, their mind. They live intentionally while others drift aimlessly. I've seen people more talented than me, smarter than me, but they wasted their mornings. They started late, reacted to everything, and wondered why nothing changed. The world doesn't reward effort, it rewards alignment. So if you want to change your life, don't start with a new business or a new degree. Start with a new morning. Wake up earlier than the world, and you'll start seeing what others can't. The quiet hours before 8 a.m. are the real boardroom, where the rich design their destiny. When I was younger, I used to wake up and immediately rush into my day, answering calls, planning meetings, chasing deadlines. I thought that was productivity. But what I didn't realize was that I was drowning in motion, not direction. Then one morning I stopped. I sat quietly and asked myself a simple question: why am I doing this? That one question changed everything. I realized that I was not living with purpose, I was living with pressure. And billionaires, they don't just work harder than others. They work with reason. Before emails, before breakfast, before the noise, the most powerful people in the world take 5 minutes to reflect. 5 minutes of silence that turn routine into ritual. Reflection is not laziness, it is calibration. It's how you remind yourself of your mission before the world tries to sell you its distractions. When I started taking those 5 minutes every morning, Alibaba began to feel different. I wasn't just trying to grow a company anymore, I was trying to grow a purpose. I remember once during the early days of Alibaba, we had no profit. No investors believed in us, and our competitors were already giants. Every morning I felt pressure to do more, to fight harder. But when I began those quiet reflections, I realized something. Doing more doesn't always mean achieving more. Sometimes it means running faster in the wrong direction. Reflection gave me the courage to say no to chaos and yes to clarity. That 5-minute habit became my compass when everything else felt uncertain. You see, people often ask, what's the difference between successful people and the rest? It's not intelligence. It's not luck. It's awareness. The rich begin their day by aligning their actions with their intentions. The poor begin by aligning with their anxiety. Those 5 minutes are when billionaires reconnect with their why. Without that, your work becomes robotic. Your energy gets wasted on everything instead of invested in what matters. When I reflect each morning, I remind myself, Jack, you're not here to prove the world wrong. You're here to serve the world right. That mindset keeps me grounded when success tempts me and strong when failure tests me. Reflection is not about meditation. It's about remembering who you are before the world forgets it for you. So if you want to build a billionaire's life, start with 5 minutes of honesty. Sit down, breathe, and ask yourself, why am I doing this? You'll be surprised how much confusion disappears when you give yourself permission to think. Most people live their lives reacting to what happens to them. The few who rise above, they start by deciding why they'll even bother to wake up. That's how billionaires build clarity before they build empires. When people ask me, Jack, how do you stay motivated every day? I tell them something that usually surprises them. I don't. Motivation doesn't come first. Movement does. You see, when I started Alibaba, I wasn't confident. I wasn't inspired. I was tired, broke, and scared. If I had waited to feel ready, Alibaba would still be an idea in a notebook instead of a company that changed millions of lives. Billionaires don't wait for motivation. They move first and the motivation follows. In the early days, there were mornings when I didn't even want to get out of bed. We had been rejected by investors, mocked by competitors, and misunderstood by our own friends. I thought, what's the point? But I would still get up, walk outside, breathe deeply, and move my body before my mind could talk me out of it. That physical movement, that act of simply doing, changed everything. Because motion creates emotion. Once you move, your blood flows, your mind awakens, and suddenly what felt impossible starts to feel inevitable. Most people think motivation is a spark that ignites action. But the truth is, action creates the spark. If you wait until you feel like it, you'll spend your life waiting. I've seen people with big dreams and big words, but they fail because they confuse inspiration with progress. You can't think your way into greatness. You must move your way there, whether it's a morning jog, a short workout, or even just taking a cold shower. Billionaires use movement to command their mindset before the world can. I learned this lesson the hard way. When we were building Alibaba, I didn't have time to think about being tired or afraid. Every day was chaos. But I realized that if I could just start, one email, one meeting, one phone call, momentum would carry me further than motivation ever could. When you move, you silence the voice of fear. You tell your brain, I'm already in motion. I'm already becoming who I said I would be. That's how you transform hesitation into power. Think about this. Rockets don't wait for perfect weather before they launch. They launch through the uncertainty. Movement before motivation is the same principle. The moment you move, you disrupt doubt. You awaken potential that motivation alone can never touch. That's why billionaires move before 8 a.m., not because they have more energy, but because they know energy follows movement. So tomorrow morning, don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait for the right song, the right mood, or the right quote. Just move. Stand up, stretch, walk, breathe, command your body before your thoughts have a chance to command you. The world doesn't reward people who feel motivated. It rewards those who act when no one's watching. Billionaires don't chase motivation. They create it through motion. Every morning before the world wakes up, there's a quiet battle happening inside you, between your mind and your ego. Most people don't even know this battle exists. They open their phones, scroll through notifications, compare their lives to others, and call that starting the day. That's not starting, that's surrendering. Billionaires win their mornings because they feed their mind, not their ego. I learned this lesson after making a mistake that nearly cost me my focus. When Alibaba first started to grow, I began each morning checking our numbers, reading media stories, and listening to what people thought about us. If they praised us, I felt powerful. If they criticized us, I felt small. My entire mood depended on what other people said. That is the trap of the ego. It feeds on external noise. It needs approval to feel alive. And once I realized that, I changed everything about how I began my day. Instead of opening my phone, I opened a book. Instead of chasing headlines, I chased ideas. For 20 minutes every morning, I would read something that challenged me, not something that entertained me. Some days it was philosophy, other days it was business strategy or history. I wasn't reading to feel smart. I was reading to build resilience, mental armor for the battles ahead. The truth is, your mind becomes what you feed it. If you feed it gossip, it grows anxious. If you feed it information, it grows clever. But if you feed it wisdom, it grows powerful. Most people underestimate how fragile their attention really is. They wake up and immediately let other people's opinions hijack their mood. By the time they've finished breakfast, their day already belongs to someone else. That's why billionaires protect those early hours, not for status, but for sanity. The mind is clearest when the world is quiet. What you do in that silence defines what you'll handle in the noise. I used to tell my young team, before 8 a.m., you're either programming your mind or letting the world program it for you. Billionaires don't have stronger minds by nature. They build them through consistent input. Books, quiet reflection, gratitude. These are not luxuries. They are tools. And just like you wouldn't pour garbage into a high-performance engine, you shouldn't pour negativity into a mind meant to build empires. So, when the world grabs its phone, you grab a page. When the world scrolls for validation, you sit in silence for direction. This is the secret billionaires know. What you consume before 8 a.m. determines what consumes you for the rest of the day. Feed your mind, not your ego. Because the ego seeks attention, but the mind seeks evolution. And only one of them will build your future. If I could give you only one physical tool to build wealth, I wouldn't give you a computer or a phone. I'd give you a notebook. You see, billionaires don't just think differently, they record differently. Most people let thoughts drift away like smoke. Billionaires capture them like architects capturing blueprints. Writing is not about journaling feelings, it's about creating structure for chaos. When I was young, I had 1,000 ideas every week. New plans, new hopes, new strategies. But without discipline, they vanished. I'd get excited for a day and lose focus the next. One morning, a mentor told me, "Jack, if you can't write it clearly, you don't understand it deeply." That sentence changed my life. I started writing every morning, short notes, reflections, and goals. At first, it felt unnecessary, but soon I realized I wasn't just writing, I was programming my brain. You see, the act of writing forces honesty. When your thoughts are on paper, they stop lying to you. You can see your confusion, your excuses, your contradictions. A billionaire's notebook isn't filled with grand plans. It's filled with clarity. Every line is a reminder of direction. Every page is a battle between who you are and who you're becoming. I used to start my mornings with one simple question: what must I create today to move closer to my vision? Writing that down made me accountable. It turned my intention into instruction. People often ask me, "Jack, how do billionaires stay focused?" My answer is simple. We don't rely on memory, we rely on systems. Writing turns chaos into sequence. It transforms dreams into measurable tasks. The poor think in emotions. I feel like doing this. I feel tired. I feel inspired. The rich think in structure. This must be done. This can wait. This deserves energy. Emotion is temporary. Structure is permanent. That's why billionaires write. There were mornings when I didn't know what to do next at Alibaba. The problems were too big. The path too foggy. So, I'd open my notebook and start with gratitude. I'd write down 3 things that were working, even small things. That shift in focus rebuilt my confidence. Then I'd outline my biggest challenge of the day and one action to address it. I wasn't solving everything. I was regaining control. Don't underestimate this habit. A notebook costs less than a coffee, yet it can design a fortune, because wealth isn't built in your bank account. It's built in your mind. And writing is how you engineer it. Billionaires aren't smarter than others, they're just clearer. And clarity begins on paper, usually before 8 a.m. In my early years at Alibaba, I thought strategy was everything. I believed if I could just plan well enough, predict well enough, or think deeply enough, success would follow. But I learned the hard way. No amount of planning can replace energy. You can have the best ideas in the world, but if you wake up exhausted, mentally or emotionally, you'll execute them poorly. Billionaires know this truth. Energy creates strategy. Without energy, even brilliance collapses. There were mornings when I'd walk into meetings with heavy eyes, drained from late nights and endless worry. My mind was sharp, but my spirit was tired. And in those moments, I noticed something. I wasn't creative. I wasn't confident. And I certainly wasn't leading. That's when I realized that energy, not talent, drives consistency. You can't win a marathon by sprinting once. You win it by sustaining your pace. Energy is what sustains the pace of achievement. Before 8 a.m., billionaires are not working on business. They're working on themselves. I used to spend those early hours charging my inner battery. Some days it was meditation. Other days it was breathing, gratitude, or quiet walks. I learned that silence isn't laziness, it's maintenance. While most people wake up and immediately give their energy to the world, to notifications, news, stress, billionaires protect theirs. Because you can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't build empires on burnout. I remember once during Alibaba's hardest year, my entire team was tense. We were running out of money, the competition was fierce, and everyone was working past midnight. One morning, instead of diving straight into work, I gathered the team and told them, stop, go home, sleep, breathe. They thought I was crazy. But when we came back the next day, ideas flowed, energy returned, and solutions appeared. Strategy had not saved us, recovery did. People often underestimate the cost of mental fatigue. You can't make billionaire decisions with poor energy. You'll think too small, react too fast, and quit too early. That's why the wealthiest people treat energy like currency. They invest in rest, in stillness, in things that restore their focus. Meditation isn't a spiritual act for them, it's a strategic one. A calm mind sees opportunities chaos cannot. I tell young entrepreneurs all the time, stop chasing efficiency. Start protecting energy. Because energy is what turns average execution into extraordinary performance. The world will tell you to work harder, but billionaires work clearer. And clarity only comes from a full battery. So before you plan your next move, take a breath, recharge, then lead. Because success is not built by those who never rest. It's built by those who know when to. Most people chase progress like it's a straight line. They believe you start at point A, move forward, and eventually reach point B. But every billionaire I've ever met, studied, or competed against knows something different. Real success moves in loops. Reflect, refine, repeat. That's the billionaire's pattern. When I built Alibaba, people thought our success came from constant innovation. New products, new markets, new ideas. But innovation wasn't our secret weapon. Reflection was. After every meeting, launch, or failure, I would sit quietly and ask one question: what did we miss? Reflection is uncomfortable. It forces you to confront your weaknesses, to face the truth you'd rather ignore. But that's where real progress hides. Most people live reactively. They make mistakes and then run from them. Billionaires do the opposite. We chase them down. Because mistakes are data. Failures are feedback. And feedback is the most valuable currency in the world. I remember the first major collapse of our e-commerce platform. It was chaos. Customers angry. Systems down. Investors panicking. My instinct said, fix it fast. But something in me said, pause. Don't react. Reflect. So instead of assigning blame, I gathered my core team and asked, what created this? Not who, but what. We realized it wasn't just a technical issue. It was a mindset issue. We were building to meet deadlines, not to build durability. That reflection changed our approach forever. From that moment, we stopped chasing speed and started designing systems that could outlast storms. That's the power of reflection. It prevents repetition. When you don't pause to analyze your losses, you sign up to repeat them. And that's what keeps most people stuck. They experience pain, but extract no wisdom. They rush to move forward, but carry the same blind spots. Billionaires don't just move fast, they move consciously. After reflection comes refinement. This is the step where most quit, because refinement is boring. It's not dramatic or glamorous, it's disciplined. It's the daily tweaking, the uncomfortable adjustments, the willingness to rebuild what you already built. But that's what mastery looks like. While others chase novelty, billionaires chase improvement. 1% better every day sounds small, but over years, it becomes unstoppable. And then comes repetition, the part where everything compounds. The same small reflections, the same daily refinements, the same simple habits, done again and again until success becomes automatic. Most people want massive results without mastering repetition. But billionaires don't rely on motivation, they rely on momentum. The billionaire loop is not about being perfect. It's about being honest. Honest with what's working, what's not, and who you're becoming. Every morning I still ask myself, what did I learn yesterday? Because reflection turns time into wisdom, refinement turns wisdom into progress, and repetition turns progress into legacy. So, if you want to join the 1%, stop running in circles and start looping with purpose. Reflect, refine, repeat. That's how billionaires think. When I was young, I only thought about tomorrow, how to survive, how to grow, how to make it through one more month. But as I matured, I realized that billionaires don't think in days or years. They think in centuries. They don't chase quick victories. They build systems that can live beyond them. That's the final shift, the difference between a rich man and a legendary one. You see, money disappears, markets change, technology becomes obsolete. But a vision built to serve people, not just profit, can echo through time. When I founded Alibaba, my goal wasn't to make money online. My goal was to empower small businesses, to give people the same opportunity that big corporations had. That's why, even decades later, the mission still lives. That's how you build something that time cannot destroy. Most people fail to create legacy because they build from ego, not purpose. They want to be remembered, not be useful. Billionaires flip that script. They understand that legacy is not carved into stone, it's written in people. Every life you touch becomes part of your immortality. When you help others rise, your story continues through them. That's the true compound interest of a meaningful life. Think about history, the names that endure. Edison, Jobs, Musk. They weren't just chasing wealth. They were solving problems that outlived them. Edison wasn't trying to sell light bulbs. He was trying to end darkness. Jobs wasn't just building computers. He was building creativity tools for humanity. Their wealth was a side effect of vision. Their legacy was a consequence of service. But here's the hard truth. Thinking in centuries requires sacrifice. You must delay gratification, reject shortcuts, and make peace with being misunderstood. Most people want applause now. Billionaires are willing to be doubted for decades as long as the mission outlives them. When you stop living for attention and start living for intention, you step into the timeless mindset of the few. When I mentor young entrepreneurs, I tell them, if your dream can die with you, it's too small. Build systems that work when you're gone. Build values that your team protects when you're not in the room. Build ideas that no one can buy because they're rooted in purpose. That's how you win, not just in business, but in existence itself. The ultimate morning habit isn't just waking up early, it's waking up with perspective. Billionaires rise before the sun, not to chase time, but to create it. Because every decision we make, every habit we practice, every morning we own, it's all shaping a future we may never see, but one that others will live in. Legacy isn't what you leave behind, it's what you set in motion. Every morning before the world believed in me, I had to believe in myself. When I walked through the dusty streets of Hangzhou, there was no evidence that Alibaba would ever exist. No office, no investors, no money. But I saw it, not with my eyes, but with my mind. I visualized a global company that connected small businesses across the planet. I saw our team, our logo, our impact, years before it became real. Visualization is not fantasy, it's programming. It's how billionaires rehearse success before the world gives them permission to achieve it. Every morning, the powerful spend time in silence, not to escape reality, but to design it. Most people wait to see before they believe. The rich believe until they see. That's the secret difference. When I started Alibaba, everyone told me it was impossible. China doesn't trust online payments, they said. The internet won't work here, they said. I could have believed them, and the story would have ended before it began, but I kept seeing it in my head. I saw millions of transactions. I saw small shops growing into international exporters. I saw a connected world. That vision became my GPS. It didn't tell me when I would arrive, but it kept me moving in the right direction. Every morning, billionaires build that internal movie. They see themselves negotiating with confidence, leading with clarity, and handling crises with calm. This is not self-help. It's self-conditioning. When your brain experiences something vividly enough, it begins preparing your body and emotions to match it. That's why athletes visualize their performance before every game. The mind cannot tell the difference between rehearsal and reality. People often say, Jack, what's the point of imagining? I need action. But they don't understand. Visualization is action. It is the blueprint before the building, the script before the performance. Without vision, effort becomes chaos. Billionaires don't work harder than everyone. They work more precisely. They move in the direction they've already seen. I remember waking up at 5 a.m. one morning, years before Alibaba went public. The company was struggling. We were losing money, morale was low, and investors were leaving. I sat in silence and pictured the future again. The offices filled with energy, the people whose lives would change because of what we built. And I told myself, Jack, if you can see it clearly, you can survive the fog. That morning, I didn't find motivation. I created it. Visualization turns faith into focus. It transforms fear into fuel. The poor visualize their problems. The rich visualize their possibilities. Every morning, the choice is yours. To see the day as another struggle or another step toward the life you're building. The greatest victories on earth are first won in the mind. Before 8 a.m., success is not a one-time event. It is not a flash of luck or a sudden opportunity. It is built quietly, invisibly, in the repetition of small, deliberate acts. I've learned this the hard way. When Alibaba was young, we didn't have money, we didn't have connections, and we certainly didn't have certainty. All we had was routine, the discipline to show up every single day and do the work that others couldn't or wouldn't do. That is how habits transform into DNA. The 8 habits we've talked about, from reflection to energy management, visualization to journaling, are not magic, they are systems. And systems are powerful because they remove dependence on willpower. Most people think motivation is what drives results. I've learned that motivation is fleeting. Habits, repeated consistently, create automatic success. The rich don't chase motivation, they become their habits. That is the secret that separates billionaires from the average person. I remember mornings when everything went wrong. The website crashed, partners were angry, investors were skeptical. Any normal person would have panicked or given up. But because the discipline of routine was already embedded in me, I knew exactly what to do. I reflected, I moved, I wrote, I visualized, I charged my energy, and I acted. One by one, the systems worked. Not because the day was easy, but because my habits were unshakable. Over time, this repetition became part of my DNA. I didn't have to think about it. It just became who I was. Repetition is not boring, it is transformative. Every billionaire you admire did not stumble into success overnight. They did the same actions over and over, long before anyone was watching. They made their mornings sacred. They protected their energy. They visualized their future. They recorded every insight. And slowly, imperceptibly, this repetition rewired them into unstoppable forces. That is why early habits are so powerful, because they create the architecture for your entire day, your entire mindset, and eventually your entire life. Do not underestimate the power of living your habits so deeply that they no longer require effort. The poor call it tedious, the average call it unnecessary. The rich call it freedom. Freedom comes when excellence is automatic, when success is encoded into your very being. The day doesn't control you, you control it. The morning doesn't dictate your pace. Your habits dictate your destiny. That is how billionaires live before 8 a.m. Not chasing life, but becoming life itself. Your mission is not to learn these habits. Your mission is to live them until they are no longer habits, but DNA. Until success is no longer a goal, but your nature. That is how you break limits. That is how you rise above the ordinary. That is how you become unstoppable. This is your blueprint. This is your dawn. Live it, repeat it, become it.